Pop quiz. Airport. Gunman with one hostage. He's using her for cover. He's almost to a plane.
Shoot the hostage.
A bus with a bomb on it sounds like either a great idea for an action film or a really lousy morning commute.
There's enough C4 on this thing to put a hole in the world.
Keanu Reeves and Sandra Bullock take public transport in Speed.
Miss, can you handle this bus?
Oh, sure. It's just like driving a really big Pinto.
Speed is a 1994 action film directed by Jan De Bont, a film that was originally pigeonholed as Die Hard on a bus, but instead turned into its own thing. It's a film with a simple idea that manages to be one of the decade's best action films.
Bombers also wired the hatch to trigger the bomb, which seats him in the crazy but not stupid section.
Sir Harry volunteers to examine the device.
Two bomb squad members of SWAT stop a madman's plan to extort a couple of $1 million from the city by threatening to blow up an elevator full of people. Harry Temple is injured, but only because his teammate Jack Traven shoots him. I mean, honestly, there's a workplace that could really do with some team building exercises. However, the dastardly mastermind behind the bombings did not in fact die, but he's still wanting his big payday, and so he bombs a bus and then calls Jack to let him know of his big plan. There's another bus that has a bomb on it. Once it goes above 50 miles an hour, the bomb will activate and will detonate if the bus's speed drops below 50. That's it. That's the film's premise. Jack commandeers a car to chase the bus on the freeway, but it's already hit 50. On board the bus, Jack has to try and let the passengers know that there's a bomb on the bus and you're all going to die.
Pardon? Didn't quite catch that.
I said there's a bomb on the bus and you're all going to die.
Well, you don't have to shout.
For reference, 50 miles an hour is 80 kilometres an hour, or roughly the speed of Auntie Beryl driving the Cannonball Run after downing 3 sleeping pills. The driver is accidentally shot, and one of the passengers, Annie, manages to be able to drive a bus. But as it's Sandra Bullock, I'll allow it.
When I find you.
Pop quiz, hotshot. There's a bomb on a bus.
The bulk of the movie Speed is, of course, set on the bus, where Jack tries to keep the passengers from killing each other. He attempts several times to defuse the bomb, and of course there are all the issues involved with trying to keep a bus from having to slow down in a town with very heavy traffic. Oh, and just to amp up the bullshit quotient, there's a bit of missing freeway. Meanwhile, Harry may have tracked down the bomber and ex-cop Howard Payne. Except Howard is a few steps ahead, and Jeff Daniels realises way too late that he's not listed on the call sheets for the last half of the movie. Jack realises the bomber can see them and enacts the old tap his feed, record the passengers and put that on a loop while they get the passengers off the bus routine. But while the bomb on the bus portion of the film has ended, there's still a mad bomb on the loose, and the film, having destroyed people's confidence in the public bus system and scared the shit out of people waiting for their flights, Speed proceeds to completely destroy faith in mass transit by getting on a train. Speed is very good. I don't mean it's a pizza and beer movie that's only enjoyable with a consumption of pizza and or beer, but really anything goes. Spirits and sushi, soft drinks and Thai food, or if you want to go off-brand, Dr. Pete and Ben Lucky dried chicken.
Wait a minute.
Once upon a time, action movies were just action movies. And then with Die Hard's success, suddenly so many new entries in the genre had to be described as Die Hard in, and then insert some vehicle or location. Writer Graham Yost would later write for Band of Brothers and Masters of the Air, and would create several television series including Justified and Silo. His original idea was for a film set mainly on a slow travelling bus that would explode if it went below 20 miles an hour, which, while cheaper and of course wouldn't need as much road, would be annoying for anybody travelling in a car behind if they had suffered food poisoning and were absolutely desperate to get home before they ruined their upholstery. Jan De Bont had been the director of photography on John McTiernan's film Die Hard, and that film's director suggested De Bont direct in what would be his first feature as director, in what would also be a fairly short career as a director. Speed would of course be a huge hit, as would Twister later in the 90s, though De Bont's later films were not as successful. And of course, the less said about the sequel to this film, the better. However, we will of course be talking about that a little bit later on in this video.
Harry, this is wrong. He's gonna blow it anyway.
It's a film starring Keanu Reeves at the height of the perception of him being someone who would just say, whoa, a lot. Despite his character in this movie never once coming close to saying, whoa. I mean, we could probably find an exaltation that sounds a bit like, whoa, but it would be a stretch. Reeves was trying to shake off that Bill and Ted vibe, you know, roles where he said, whoa, like a surfer dude. Though I doubt Point Break helped all that much. Bram Stoker's Dracula, or B.S. Dracula, may have de-world his career, but his attempt at a British accent in that film led to even more mockery. Reeves was not the first choice for a lead for Speed, but rhyming aside, he does manage to make the role his own.
We've come for my regret, but I have one life to give for my country to fuck you.
One thing about Speed, while there are plenty of one-liners and slightly more verbose supporting characters, this is one of the few 90s action films where every single character is not obnoxiously oversharing and spewing reams of annoying one-liners. By all accounts, the script to Speed was actually tweaked to lessen that sort of thing.
Went sour, now he's a little pissed at me.
So after watching many other 90s action movies, Speed really does feel like a breath of fresh air, though it is set on what seems like a non-air conditioned bus with a lot of terrified people fearful for their lives. So I'm guessing not literally all that fresh.
But you've done all right for yourself.
What do you want?
I want money, Jack.
Sandra Bullock, who had started her screen career as a bionic protege of the $6 Million Man and the Bionic Woman, was landing larger and larger roles, but it was Speed that made her a household name, to the point where after this, she was often the first billed star of many of her films going forward.
Relationships that start under intense circumstances, they never last.
Her character, Annie, can drive a bus, but what of it?
I should probably tell you that I'm taking the bus because I have my driver's license revoked.
What for?
Speeding?
Dennis Hopper, who tried his best to make Super Mario Bros. At least watchable, returns as a villain where he basically picks up the template for movie villains in the 90s.
Don't fuck with Daddy.
He has a bone to pick with the lead character and taunts him constantly over the telephone. His character, Howard Payne, is hopping mad. Dennis hopping mad. Refunds for that joke will be processed in 6 to 8 weeks. Please allow time for shipping. Contents may have settled.
Way to go, Jack. Way to go.
Alan Ruck is putting in time in another small character part. Joe Morton is the head of the bomb squad, and Jeff Daniels is the doomed Harry Temple, a character who was much sketchier in earlier versions of the script, though at least his name wasn't Harry to Smithereens. Harry's main function is to provide tech support for Jack and to try and work out the bomber's identity, where for some reason his role late in the film is rather bitsy.
We're gonna die.
No, we're not. We got this far.
Speed started off as a much smaller story, perhaps thought of as a cheaper film to make, but apparently having a bomb on a bus was not blockbuster enough. In short, it was felt that the film would need more "whoa,
Mister, I'm already there.
whoa" was added to the start of the film with the elevator sequence, and again at the end with the final showdown on the train. After which, you know what, I'm just going to take the stairs and walk to work. I might be a bit late and a bit sweaty. By the end of the film though, there was enough whoa to make it worth anyone's while.
You have to hold this. It's like a grenade. You have to help me now. Come on, hold it.
Speed's runtime is a shade under 2 hours, and unlike Keanu Reeves here, rarely drags, though the scenes on the train at the end did seem like the filmmakers couldn't come up with an interesting enough way to resolve the bomb on the bus plot. However, it does manage, if somewhat clumsily, to collect Sandra Bullock, Dennis Hopper and Keanu Reeves in the same place at the same time, allowing the hero and villain to face off against each other in person.
Wouldn't be able to interest you in a bribe, would I?
Of course, they had been in contact for most of the film when Howard Payne was able to call up Jack to taunt him. Speed was not the first film to use a cell phone as a story device, nor was it the first where the villain has the hero on speed dial. But in Speed, you needed the cell phone, since having a landline on a bus travelling 50 miles an hour would mean running to Radio Shack every 5 minutes to get another extension cord.
I need to take your phone.
Take the phone.
So, cell phones to the rescue. They were becoming more common in the 90s, so we've upgraded from walkie-talkies from a film like Die Hard to Jack having a cell phone. If the film had been made decades later, Jack could have even ordered food for the bus passengers, though he's probably going to have to leave the delivery driver a much bigger tip than usual.
Don't get dead!
In the 90s, most of the heroes of these films were called Jack or John. But now you could also give Jack McBoom Boom a cell phone and not have to stop the film whenever somebody needed to find a phone. How did they even do this before the mobile phone? Well, they cheated. In Goodfellas, here's a scene where Henry Hill gets a call from Lorraine at a store where he's shaking down the owner of the store. You don't necessarily think about how ridiculous it is that she's got the number to exactly where he happens to be. You don't necessarily think about how ridiculous it is because it's moving the plot along. Now with a cell phone, chatty Cathys with bomb fetishes and delusions of grandeur can be there to tease the heroes throughout the film, and if they're really lucky, garner a nomination for an Academy Award for Best Supporting Actor. Speed is one of De Bont's best action films, where his direction is precise without being overly flashy or, thankfully, overly annoying. The acting all works well, even the relatively anonymous actors on the bus. Hey, I said relatively. It's one of those films where the premise sounds slightly outlandish and, if I'm honest, a little bit cheap. But thankfully, the final product doesn't have the film devolving into explosions for the sake of explosions. Though, it's also a film that is not without a credible amount of bullshit, such as a bus jumping a gap in the freeway. Buses, by and large, are not known for their ability to jump. Though, in a case of irony, the bus in Speed does manage to clear a gap equivalent to 100 Evel Knievel's.
I like that.
Speed was made for a budget in the $30 million range, which was fairly low for a film with this much spectacle and, yeah, explosions. But it was also a colossal hit, bringing in around 10 times that budget worldwide. So, pop quiz. You make a lot of money on your movie, but only one of the stars agrees to return. What do you do? Well, you stick Sandra Bullock on a cruise liner in Speed 2 Cruise Control, which was released in 1997, brought back Jan De Bont and Bullock in a film that cost up to $160 million to make and market, and that's pretty much what it took at the box office.
Oh, no. That's not good.
Meaning 20th Century Fox was pretty much done with Speed as a franchise.
Big asshole.
Technically there's a Speed 3, but it's about a milk float on Craggy Island where Father Dougal takes over the milk run of a milkman who swears revenge, and it already sounds better than Speed 2.
That was different. The Towering Inferno was a big building that caught fire.
Speed is a great 90s action flick that surprised me by skipping a lot of the stuff that bugs me about so many 80s and 90s action movies. I'm now sitting here wondering two things. Firstly, should I watch Speed 2? And secondly, why did I wait 30 years to rewatch this? This is great.
I know.
If you enjoyed this review, please like and subscribe, leave a comment below, or check out some of our other videos.
I'm gonna rip your fucking spine out, I swear to God.
You're gonna do exactly as you're told.